Hello everybody. I'm Andrew, and this is a little podcast that I'm gonna start doing, where I invite people and we talk about high school stuff. So today I have Dylan Williams, who goes to school with me,
Yep.
and he's a cool guy.
I'm alright.
Yeah. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
As Andrew said, I'm Dylan Williams. I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm 15 years old. And I don't know what else to add. I play sports. I do soccer and basketball. I love watching sports. Anything about them really is just enjoyable for me. I'm an actor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a musician. I play piano, a little bit of guitar, drums, and used to play clarinet actually, which is kind of cool. But that's just my musical side. I'm active. I like to constantly doing things, and I love doing stuff like this. Just talking freely and openly.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Any questions?
No, not. I have them written down though. So what schools have you been to? What have been your experience at those schools?
Well, before high school, we'll just go way back. When I was younger, preschool and kindergarten, I was at this school because at the time I was living with my grandma. My family were, because we got recently kicked out of the house that we were at. That's a story for another day. But it was all right. It was just my grandma. My grandpa had passed years prior.
Mm-hmm.
I never actually met him, which is unfortunate. But I was going to the school called Williams Ranch, which is right outside of Penn Valley, in their gated community down there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool. I liked it. It was a little school. I mean, I was this little kid, I was always adventuring and finding new things and meeting interesting people that I would never see again,
Mm-hmm.
which I found out later, because after I finished kindergarten, I moved to our first apartment that I lived in, which was new for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little place, but it was nice because they had just been built that year, so it was interesting to be in our own place, except for it wasn't old, it wasn't used or anything. We were the first occupants of the place, and we were some of the first people in the apartment complex altogether.
Wow.
Which was interesting because over the 4 years that we were there, we were able to literally see everything grow. We were able to see the people move in and see some people leave and see how people change and grow up, which was awesome, which was a whole new experience for me, which I loved.
Uh-huh.
I didn't love the apartment. I loved the apartments, though. The people, the occupants. It was a phenomenal experience. At the time I was going to, when I moved into a new school called Union Hill. Union Hill is a large school, or at least for the area, because it's preschool through 8th grade, which is crazy because the school, the school grounds itself, weren't that big.
Mm-hmm.
The buildings were the large part. I mean, they had to have, 3-story buildings in some places, and then it was almost like a little village in other corners. That's what the first grade classrooms were. It was almost like a little street, and each classroom was like a little house lined up next to each other, and it was a cool experience for me to be able to go there and meet new people and experience the change. It was a whole new lifestyle for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't necessarily used to it,
Mm-hmm.
but I adapted quickly. I met a lot of cool people there, nice people that I'd never met before. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was really interesting was the way that people acted. I noticed because when I was younger, I was that kind of kid that was, refraining from cursing and
Right.
looked at anything bad. I mean, I'd get bothered when I see someone smoking a cigarette outside, but then I go to this school and then I see, because we weren't necessarily congregated. The grades weren't separated.
Okay.
I would see older kids out,
Mm-hmm.
as a in 2nd grade was when it really started happening, was when I would hang out with some of the older kids. Just because I always fit in. I was always the kid that was able to, talk and be casual and be normal and never really had any issues. And was probably the stuff that I would say. I'd say some really stupid stuff. People
Right.
would be like, "This kid's funny." He says something idiotic and he doesn't really care. So yeah, sure, cool. He can hang out with us, whatever, right? And it was just me changing so much. Not that I became this profane little kid, but I would hang out with those people and suddenly I was desensitized to it. I didn't grow up playing any violent video games or watching any inappropriate movies. My parents sheltered me pretty well, but school is what changed me.
Yeah.
School is what really influenced me, and it also changed my brother a lot. My older brother, 4 years older than me, he was going into 4th or 5th grade when I was going into 1st. And so it was all new for him too. And he'd actually had to leave his friends behind, which is just really unfortunate because my brother, like me, gets attached to people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we get attached to people really fast, and that's just how we are. That's just how we were raised. We were raised to take our friends,
Mm-hmm.
and we were taught to care about them.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people that are going to be there for us, and as long as we take care of them, they'll take care of us, right?
Yeah.
That's wrong. That's how most of the kids were at Union Hill. It was drama, and there were problems, and there were issues, but that was growing up, and I learned that really fast.
So how long did you go to Union Hill?
I was there till 4th grade. I was just a little kid when I had to leave.
So this is from 1st grade to 4th grade?
Yeah, which was my first time having to leave close friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was my first time having to leave. I mean, I was in a relationship at the time too, and it was it was just one of those quirky dorky little kid relationships that really didn't mean anything at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't talk to her for another 2 years, and we finally started talking again, and we were just friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was cool to see that we'd both grown up.
Mm-hmm.
And that we were okay. But leaving was a huge thing for me because we went from living 4 years in these little apartment complex, being surrounded by all these kids and doing mischievous little kid things that don't really get you in trouble, but you feel bad for doing at the time just because it's so hardcore.
Yeah.
We went from that lifestyle to this new house out in Alta Sierra, this big house, this 2-story house that was just gorgeous. It was fantastic. The way that it was set up was that you couldn't really see into it unless you're looking down the driveway, and the driveway kind of curved, so it was nice and secluded. The neighbors weren't right next to each other. We had our own space. I mean, I swear I was not used to being that separated from people. That for the first month and a half I felt like someone was going to rob the house because we were out in the middle of nowhere, even though we weren't. We were surrounded by people.
Yeah.
Except for in front of the house was a road, and then a giant hill, and that road led up to a little airport, a little runway, not necessarily an airport where you go and you get on the plane and you ride, but just a stretch.
Right.
And people lived up along that stretch in scattered houses, and they all had their own garage and their little planes or a biplane, and that was awesome.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. As soon as I moved in, I had quickly become an acquaintance with our neighbors, the Navos. Katera.
I know her, yeah.
Well, she, introduced herself and her sisters and her mother, and I mean, they came over for the first day and they brought us cookies, and those cookies were magnificent. They were fantastic. And that became our thing. My mom would make salsa, and we'd bring them that, and we'd do all sorts of things together. We became best friends really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And going to this new school, I went to this new school called Alta Sierra School. Yeah, it was pretty self-explanatory. The school was terrible. It sucked. I mean, I was there for a year. The school went from 1st grade to 5th grade. And I was there only 1 year, and I didn't like it. I mean, the people, they were cool, but the teachers seemed like they didn't know what they were doing.
Uh-huh.
They were clueless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the way that they acted and the way that they taught. I mean...
Do you mean they didn't care about you, or they didn't care about the subject?
I feel like they just didn't care about teaching.
Yeah.
Just the way that they acted. Except for there was one teacher I remember in particular. I forget her name, but she was a confusing person. She had black hair and really, really pale white skin, and she wore these rim-tipped glasses where they kind of tip up like wings,
mm-hmm.
and they were black and generally tinted. she always wore black dresses.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever she'd go outside, she'd put on a jacket. Even if it was hot, she'd always put on a jacket and bring out an umbrella.
Wow.
She was like a vampire. But the people there were nice. I liked the people there. I came in contact with a lot of new people. I met some people, and then we got this this crazy idea that we were going to make a movie. That was when I first started getting interested in acting.
Mm-hmm.
Was when I thought of making a movie, and then me and a couple of friends of mine that I just met that year. Katera wasn't actually involved in this, but a couple others were, and we decided that we were going to write a script for a movie, because just that year I had gotten my first computer, and this computer was a dinosaur. This thing was like like a foot thick, and it had this huge back to it, and the keyboard was like, like everything popped up. It was like one of those pop-up books. I mean, it was huge. I mean, you push a button and you got to push it down, and you're pushing it down for like a half an hour until it finally clicks.
Yeah.
And I love that thing. I used to play little games on it. I had this car game in particular that I like to play. But we decided to make a movie, or at least write a script. And so I said, okay, I got a computer. I'm going to write a script out for us. So I started writing the script for this movie that we never made. We were never going to make in the first place. It was just an idea. And it was the weirdest thing. I don't remember what it was going to be called. But I do remember that it was weird, and it had to do with like this building and these zombies and this chick running and screaming in this graveyard, and it was very amateur and very childish and very not smart.
It's awesome.
I think it was called The Creature, actually. Yeah, I don't know, but it was stupid.
Amazing.
Yeah. So after that year, I go to this new school, Magnolia, which is a middle school. So it's strictly 6th through 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more people there at this school that I came in contact with, because we were actually more congregated at Alta Sierra from the younger students. So like the only people that we really came in contact with were the 4th graders. So it was all new to be seeing all these other kids. And it was interesting. I mean, that's when I first started getting a taste for having to get good grades and, all these other things, and, maintaining myself, and it was a whole new experience. And it was interesting. The people there were rude. A lot of them were. The older kids were, at least. I mean, I remember this one kid in particular. It was funny. It was our first day there, and I was being that cocky little 6th grader. And he was a 7th grader at the time, and he was a short kid, and he had long hair. I swear it was down to his mid back section, and he was short too, and it was funny. So I was with a couple of friends of mine, and he just had one other friend with him, so I thought I might take a crack at him, and I was like, wow, the school's got everything. They've even got dwarfs here. And oh, it was great. He gave me the dirtiest look, and this kid turned out to be one of the toughest kids in the school, and he just gave me a dirty look and walked away. I was a short kid, at the time. I was always short going through middle school. Middle school was nothing special. I mean, it was fun, and I enjoyed it, 7th and 8th grade in particular. But 7th grade was mainly because the older kids that I'd hang out with, and then 8th grade was just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We'd switch principals in 8th grade, as you remember, and they were just, I don't know, we were always getting in trouble, though. But I never got in trouble. That was the thing. I'd get called in under suspicion of being in trouble, but never actually getting in trouble. Yep. It was interesting. Mostly because I never really did anything. I've always been a good kid. But grades were my issue. So leaving middle school, we go to high school, and that was my first year at Bear River. Bear River is a obvious high school, the 4-year high school, 9th grade through 12th grade. And freshman year changed me so much. I became this awful person. I was closed-minded. The people that I hung out with were, a large group of people. Good kids. We all hung out together, and we were nice to each other, but I mean, when it come to other people, it was just...
I know there's
Hey,
a
buddy.
dog in here.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Oh, I'm all wet. That's awesome.
Oh, gosh.
So, going to this school
Going
was
to-
my first experience at a high school,
Uh-huh.
and everything was different.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the way that people acted, the way that people were treated, it was just completely different.
Mm.
But there was no bullying like you'd expect in a normal high school, mostly because this wasn't a normal high school.
Go away.
Yeah, sniff that microphone.
Oh, he is wet, too. Oh, no. Oh, go on, go.
So
We can delete all
coming,
that bit.
yeah. So coming to Bear River was a new experience for me. The people were different. The teachers were different. The teachers didn't care as much. I could do really whatever.
Mhm.
I didn't get in much trouble. I didn't spend any time in the office really. The people though, they were what was changing me. I mean, I just became this cruel person, and I didn't notice it at the time, but I was just neglecting all of my true friends and just being a jerk, and I felt awful about it. And it took me that entire school year to realize what I'd really lost. And my grades were what really was what was affected, and that was awful for me because I'm all about my future and I'm all about productivity, and I didn't really realize how much that really affects me, how being productive can affect me until I got to this school. And that's why I decided to leave, and that's when I decided to go to Sale. Sale is a high school. It's tiny. It's on Bear River campus. We're literally in 2 classrooms. It's not a big school at all. There's probably 50, 60 students max.
What does SAIL stand for?
SAIL is Sierra Academy of Exponentiary Learning. We're all about going on trips, more or less. Apparently we're supposed to be, but this is our first year, so we've only been on one so far. We went out and we hiked along and we camped for 3 days, and we backpacked along the American River, which was an awesome experience because I'd never done that before. I mean, I've been hiking and backpacking, but I mean, I've never really been to the American River and looked at it in depth before, which is cool because, I mean, I cooked every night. I prepared people's food and for them, and I was, pumping water, and we were living like we would if we were stranded, except for we had food, which was nice. Limited food, though. That was an interesting experience. So, the school has changed me, in a lot of ways, which is good. I'm doing good in school now. My grades are good. My friend choice is a bit better. My friends are making mistakes, but I'm trying to stay out of that. I'm switching it up a lot, hang out with different people all the time, just because that's good. It's good to be diverse. And I'm just trying to stay positive. I'm trying to get through this year and decide if I want to stay, decide if I want to go, and just see where the school can take me.
Wow. What school do you think shaped you the most into who you are?
I feel like the school isn't really the variable. I feel like the actual denominator, in a sense, would be the people.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you hang out with negative people, you're going to be a negative person. If you hang out with positive people, you can still be a negative person. But generally, you'd be more positive, you'd be better suited, you'd be more prepared. If you see someone doing good in school, and they're supportive about you doing good in school, you're going to do better at school. But if people are going to be negative, then you're going to have a negative outlook on life, and that affects everything. And that's why I left Bear River, because I did not want to go down the road that most of those kids were going down. I wanted to have a future that I knew exactly where I was going, and I knew how it was going to affect me, and I knew that I could take care of myself. Because that's my number one thing, is providing. I'm motivated, and my motivation comes from my dreams and my desires, and as long as I can take care of myself, then I can take care of those that I care about. And that's what's really important to me. Not school, not having a whole bunch of friends. I'd rather have a few select friends than, like how it was at Bear River. I mean, I had so many people that I cared about, and so many people that cared about me, but ultimately it was the people that truly showed how much they cared is what really mattered. And so I left a lot of people behind at Bear River, and that's not great, and no, I'm not happy about it, but it was for the best, and I'm succeeding now, and I'm happy with what I'm doing, where I'm going, and the grip that I have on my life.
Well, thank you for coming. I don't really have any more questions, and I think that's a really good note to end on.
I agree.
So thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me.